able to disengage. His zoning force doing quite a bit for the team. I really want to either see a ban or just, if we see the Gnar once again, I want to see him build well for that. And you've made a good point on that, VODS, that he should just go for the Frozen Mallet and Black Cleaver. He should just go incredibly hard and going to the back line on that
well,
one.
there it is. You called it. The gangplank being taken away. They felt like that they couldn't punish it enough, and then you'd have to immediately respond with the Gnar. Ah, there we are. Because if you take away the gangplank, then you just go, okay, no more answers for the Gnar. And now we're going to see the top lane open a little bit more. Champions like Echo now become much higher in the priority ladder, and we did see some Fiora throughout the tournament. We're yet to see it so far, but also the Trundle is something that you have to take into consideration when so many top laners are gone.
Ooh, Albus NoX, they play such a high priority on this Jhin, maybe a little bit too reliant on it. It gets banned away from them here, so they are going to have to default onto something else in line with a very quick insta-lock, pick themselves up that Vladimir.
This is absolutely fine because the Mouse is still open. Kira can go for that in the later draft. You don't have to pick it up early. Get the Gragas. Stasios, so far he's only played it throughout this series. He's clearly very comfortable on it. You can pick it up early on and then perhaps get yourself the Bard right now as well. Or maybe even pick yourself up the Ashe to deny it away from White Lotus so that you've made sure that Miracle is on a comfort AD carry.
We have a lot of jokes about Blue Side getting a lot of wins, but this is a legitimate strength that comes out. It feels like a fourth ban coming through, simply because they have the ability to play that Vladimir. First time that we've actually seen Seiya just outright go for that blind pick. He
hasn't even played it this tournament yet.
Exactly. So that's something that he, as a player, he has a lot of picks in his arsenal. If they're afraid of the Vladimir pick, and if they're afraid of, honestly, Shen, Gangplank, and Jhin, you can fit them all in there by just getting that first pick going for you.
And Albus NoX, Miracle showing that the only other character he's willing to play right now is the Ashe, picking that one up, but could potentially see a Kench coming out of Lyon. We do know how well they love that. And
it's a good call. The Kench would make a lot of sense. Really good pick into the Ashe. And we could, I wouldn't be surprised to see an Ezreal come out from White Lotus. He hasn't played it yet, but something that we saw yesterday coming out from INTZ was the, or during that series even, was the Ezreal as a decent pick into the Ashe. You can go into the Iceborne Gauntlet and you actually do a great job of kiting around. And the laning phase isn't actually that bad either. So if you are Lyon, you could, I think that an Ezreal or a Tahm Kench Trundle rotation would be good for them right now.
So they go with here, Kench being hovered over, 14 seconds left on the clock. Second rotation here for Lyon. Already got their mid laner locked in, and VODS a prophet right now. Do you do this for a living or something, mate?
Well, I'm going to take a quick stab in the dark at the next one. I do think that he covered over it before I had a chance. But you could pick your Mals now and save your support for the last pick. But from what we saw yesterday, Trundle does relatively well into the Echo, but when you're limited in what you can pick, that the Echo is just kind of the natural fallback. I do feel like you could still pick a Fiora into the Trundle. It's a relatively decent matchup, but they're still right now prioritizing the Echo. But right now, Mals would make a fair amount of sense if you just want to have something safe that you know will be a good matchup.
And the last time we did see Smurf go towards that Fiora, it was the Fiora and Elise takeaway from Dark Passage. So perhaps it was just an individual point where they decided that they didn't respect the pick, or at least the rest of the champion pool coming out of Dark Passage. So they might not even retouch on that pick in general.
They're actually going to go with the Anivia one more time. No. In the end, with 1 second left on the clock, they end up going with that Mals once again. I wonder how we saw that one coming, VODS.
Well, it is Kira's. Kira's most preferred pick is the Mals throughout this tournament. He has picked it up 4 times. Arguably a much better laning phase than the Anivia because of his passive. He's a slightly lower risk. But now for Lyon, I would very much like to see either the Rek'Sai or the Elise. I feel like if you want to be risky, you could go for the Nidalee, but in terms of a composition, the problem is it has no hard crowd control, so that's why I think the Rek'Sai would be a little bit better, because it offers an extra front line, and it enables the Trundle to build a little bit more aggressively.
I would actually like to see a Lucian as well, simply because the Trundle Pillar will allow him later on in the game to have that secure ulti. He doesn't really need to get that engage going. He doesn't need to run in. He can just get that initial setup, and of course, he will actually... Ezreal! I'm just going to have to shut up because you can take it forward. Hasn't played it a single time, but VODS doesn't matter.
Called the Ezreal.
Quick, what's next?
What's next?
Go.
That's support, so Tarek. Tarek makes the most sense. It's a good pick into the Tahm Kench, and it's also very anti-team fight, which is naturally a good pick into the Vlad as well. It's also something that Vicra has brought out. We had the flowchart of is Bard banned, is Brand banned, or yes, then you go for the Tarek. But he still has the Bard available to him. It gives him a little bit more lane dominance, and it also acts as a secondary engage. When you've also got the Ashe, you've also got the Gragas barrel. It's just another way to start these fights.
We'll lock it in here, and the thing I love about Bard is he just offers 2 skills that no other champion can replicate: Magical Journey and Tempered Fate. There's nothing that can even come close in terms of utility there. Always getting your team to safety in those sticky situations, and hopefully Lyon have learned from last game. Unless you're Bilbo Baggins, don't go on an unexpected journey.
So this is something that you were talking about earlier on, Raz. Lyon seem to be going once again for just lane dominance. Vlad, early game, definitely has the advantage. Trundle, early game, definitely has the advantage. The only one that might go slightly in the favor of Albus is the bottom lane with the Bard coming in there, but even then at level 2, there is the risk of the Ezreal actually putting out a fair amount of damage in terms of trading back and forth, but it's definitely reasonable for the Ashe Bard to be able to come out ahead in that 2 versus 2 as well. So, but overall, that just means that Oddie can just put his focus into the bottom half of the map, because he knows that mid is going to be pushing, he knows that top is going to have the edge, and that means that there's only 1 weak lane left, so I'm just going to concentrate all of my ganks there. Yeah,
and honestly, this is the biggest strength this team has had in general. Their last game was hard simply because Audi really just had to farm. He really couldn't impact the match. The
gank top a lot, to be fair.
That's true. But this time around, he's going to be able to gank top, mid, bot freely, not really have that that opportunity or fallback in terms of, oh, well, my ability didn't land. I can't really follow up on this now. This time it's going to be a lot easier, especially since Giral is on the Trundle pick. It's a good matchup for him. Seiya can shove in early. It's going to be hard for Kira up until a certain point where he can shove in. So overall, it's good that they're going back on the style that they've won out with.
We'll have to wait and see what happens as we jump into the Rift for game number 3. We're all tied up 1-1, back to even footing. Lyon taking on Albus NoX Luna. Should see these guys heading on into lane. And Miracle and Liquid, they do have that range advantage, so maybe they'll try for a little bit of a sneaky down at the Krugs.
Now, the interesting thing about this matchup, because we're in game 3, is Albus NoX were a team that a lot of us predicted to be at the top of the group stages. And Lyon Gaming were a team that no one really had any expectations for, because as a region, they have not done very well in past international wildcard events. And it was a very big surprise to have Lyon come out ahead of Albus NoX. And it was even more of a surprise for them to then lose to Albus NoX, not get the 7-0, and for Albus NoX to come in 4th, because we thought that as the tournament progressed, these would be the top 2 teams. But now they're playing up against each other, and I feel like that Albus NoX are actually doing a great job of highlighting the weaknesses that Lyon have had. A lot of their strengths throughout this tournament have honestly been just Lyon outperforming their opponents. And now we're starting to see in the best of series that Lyon might not be as strong as they initially came across as during the group stages.
Yeah, and Albus NoX, they not only do they have the smarter play and team fight, this is a great matchup for them simply because, relatively speaking, their individual players match up in certain areas as well. So it's fun to see them going up against Lyon rather than INTZ, because you start to see an outlined performance on Albus NoX's macro play. And you get to see a little bit in terms of the team fights as well.
Consistently, the vote getting larger and larger. This time, 14%. Albus NoX coming in swinging hard this game.
Oh, man. So it seems like the Albus NoX fans here to support their brothers in arms, help them get through.
They're trying to.
But right now, we talked about the lane matchups early on. The push is going to be in favor of Seiya in the mid lane early on. Vladimir, this is a matchup we've seen multiple times where the Malzahar has to make a decision where he can choose to either trade back early on and force all of his mana that way, or he just pushes as much as he can. And in all honesty, the best decision really is to try and push, because the worst place for Malz to be is stuck underneath his turret. But the same is happening up on the top side. It's very difficult for Smurf to be able to trade back into the Trundle. And we're actually seeing a fair amount of poke coming out of the bottom lane, but White Lotus is just doing a great job of avoiding it and then trading back himself.
Already Seiya getting them a little advantage here in the mid lane, just using those low cooldowns and no mana pool to his advantage. Oddie, though, going cross-country here, maybe for a blue invade.
And notice as well that Saya, because he had the early push, he's able to move towards the jungle and provide a bit of support as well. And immediately Licrit moving towards his jungler to just say, hey, you know what, I'm here. If you need a bit of assistance, I can come back you up as Oddie moves in.
It's a bit of a surprise that RC did not as well. They had that lane shoved in. It was they were in a fairly comfortable position. Not only are they on blue side and they got the shove in on the bottom lane, they had the ability to push Gragas off. They just didn't expect the speed out of it.
Looks like the Oddie was more interested in actually getting the Scuttle Crab, though. It seems that he wanted to just get some vision for the bottom half of the map, largely because there's such a big push on the bottom side that he probably just wanted to provide a bit of extra utility. Note that he went from Gromp to blue straight to red, and then he moved into the river to try and get some vision. So he took advantage of his faster clear speed to give some extra vision for his bottom lane.
Something we've been seeing quite regularly when people pick up that Malzahar in the mid, because he does struggle with his mana issue so early, is they get that Rek'Sai and donate the blue buff very early on, but not the case this game, as Gragas himself wants that one.
Yeah, I was actually about to mention that because they've actually made the trade-off for a much later engaged presence from Gragas. Of course, it's always nice to be able to give that blue buff off to the Malzahar, especially up against Vladimir. Just not going to happen. It was a first rotation on that one, so.
Zeus making his way up into the mid lane to just help out Kira, who's really struggling, but that's what happens when you're forced to use your mana. But what does that mean for Smurf? It means bad things. It's Oddie, he's up here. The flash comes through. The cocoon does land. Jirol coming on in, gets the chomp. Is he going to be able to get something more? They both flash in. First blood, going to Jirol.
Fantastic start for Lyon Gaming. They get Jirol an early kill because Smurf, he was pushing out the lane. This couldn't have been a worse situation for him. It does trade 2 flashes, but getting that first blood is going to be massive for Lyon.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they wanted, but it seems like Saya's in a bad spot.
Does have the flash and the ghost available, but he is quite low. Licorice can't find the stun. Now White Lotus turning the aggression back around, but Miracle still has a very deep health pool. Smurf just going to teleport back to the top lane. So did Jirol, so some of the spells on equal point right now. Flash comes through to avoid the consume. The crit turning the damage back around, but now he's in trouble. Doesn't have enough mana for the magical journey. Ooh. 2 flashes coming out.
A lot of respect there. They know that White Lotus's mentality is to get the kill if he has the option.
Now this is the Lyon Gaming that we're used to seeing. Just all-out aggression, all 3 lanes pushing. Oddie gets first blood on the board, and let's see if Lyon can snowball this into some sort of big advantage. Because what you kind of want to do now is you've already got first blood in the top lane, right? So what you do is you start a slow push in favor of Jirol, you push the minion wave in the bottom half of the map underneath their turret, and you swap it back to the top. There's no TP on Smurf, there's no flash, you have Oddie move up as well, you can set up for a tower dive, or you can just look to prioritize that first turret. Either way, it opens up the map more, and it will just extend the lead that Jirol has already managed to accrue.
In the mid lane, Kira was forced to use that ghost, so already exerting pressure. Oddie just constantly around the map, right place, right time, and now Smurf down a level. Jirol does have that ultimate available to him now, so Smurf, so much respect is needed.
The fact that they went back 6 minutes in and went straight towards bot lane, it is a bit of a mind game. You don't know whether they're going to be sending their dual lane top or bot. In the end of the day, it's still great for White Lotus to get that early back off simply because he's able to get the early tier and start to scale up. Usually a lot of Ezreals do have the problem where they're still stuck in lane getting shoved in 10 minutes in and they really can't start to scale up with their tier. So that's a great back from White Lotus.
The big problem is they weren't actually able to successfully force Miracle back before he could get his BF, because in terms of the 1 versus 1 right now, the item advantage the Miracle has over his counterpart is absolutely massive. When you've only got a Tier and a Cull, it's going to be so difficult for you to be able to effectively trade if you actually go for an all-in sort of skirmish. And this is something that the Lyon bottom lane just have to be very aware of. But for the time being, the wave is pushing towards them so they can set up a freeze. Just use that additional mana to get a bunch of poke down.
Look, nothing says I just want to chill and farm more than a Cull and a Tier. 3 members online actually picking themselves up the refillable potions here. Miracle got one for himself, so weird little trends developing here. Usually we just see people buy a couple of potions here, but obviously valuing the sustainability.
We are actually seeing a lot more refillable potions these days,
yeah.
Largely as an efficiency thing, because spending money on health bots is not necessarily as efficient if you never use them.
Look, it sustains the environment as well. Imagine all that broken glass people are just leaving behind. There's something that can go back, just top up. Think of Summoner's Rift.
Like, do you want to talk about the environment on the Summoner's Rift when there is a character that literally calls the sun down?
Yeah.
Talk about global warming. That's not helping very much, is it?
And there's quite a lot of pollution on the map when people their carcasses are just left on the field. So I mean, it's just we're having a bad time right here on the Rift.
Yeah, the environmental sustainability of Summoner's Rift not at its peak, but we'll be seeing just killing the wildlife here as Kira going over to get himself the blue buff. These guys are scumbags.
I'll say it's a catfish, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
How does he breathe?
Gills. Air gills.
What, you mean lungs? Did you really just call them air gills? Is that what you said?
No, man. You must have misheard me. It's my Australian accent. I said lungs, but you got air gills.
I didn't catch that either.
Oh, man.
Looks like
top
just
lane.
going to be clearing out wards.
Top lane's actually accrued quite a bit of a lead.
Ooh, look at Stejos. He's moving into the bottom lane.
So you're taking a bit of damage. Those Voidlings are relentless here. The crit level 6, so has a Tempered Fate available. Let's see if White Lotus is on point. Ash ult comes through onto Arce. Still has the great health flashes just in time. Can he get the return kill? Ulti coming through. Oddie's made his way down. Tempered Fates himself to allow his team to get to safety.
So, Liquid in that situation was like, I appear to be in a spot of bother. And he couldn't really get out of that situation. I don't know why he held on to the Tempered Fate for so long, as well as the Cosmic Binding, but largely they just wanted to get the flash out. They weren't expecting the collapse from Oddie, and it does result in a...
The gank turnout, it looked like it was going to be poor for Lyon, but he was able to output as much damage as possible on the crit. Even went down for the ulti, tried to see if he can pop him. Didn't get the exact location, but Oddie was in the area.
Saya just going for some damage here. I mean, Kira just going for some damage here. Saya just going to heal it back up in a Q in a bit, but...
It's about sending a message, you know, throwing down the staring contest. Saya forced to back away from that one, and now we see the gank coming in from Arce.
Oh, Abyssal Voyage, he might be in trouble. Can't find the Q from Lecrit to get the stun, but just goes himself to safety.
And that's the big change with the Tahm Kench pick. We would have never seen that patches ago, but ever since they've decreased the time in which he can ulti into the plays, we've been seeing it a lot more aggressively.
And it's nice to see this coming out from Arce as well. We've praised Liquid for his roaming so much in Game 2. Now that Arce is trying to match that using this Tahm Kench, it's alleviating some of the pressure that Liquid is trying to exert. So nice response from Arce. And given that White Lotus is holding his own as we see a dive in the mid.
We'll say playing with fire right now is able to avoid the silence, so did have the pool available should the over-aggression have stayed, but manages to avoid the potential death.
Oddie the omnipresent one. Every single time it seems very dire. Seo was in a bad spot, but of course Oddie, it seems like the communication on this team is very spot on because Oddie knows what's happening. He knows the status of each laner and he's able to catch it out.
It's because he's a ghost, mate. He can just pass through walls. He's always where you never expect him to be. But it can't stop his name reminding me of the Pokemon Oddish for some reason.
I've had that problem throughout the video. Like, I actually I've stopped myself from saying Oddish. I've actually had to do it.
We're just going to see him clearing out some wards here, making his way around him. You guys are right. Every single time we look, where's Oddie? Oh, he's in the perfect position at the perfect time. Hey, what do you know? So massive props to him. Oh, there he is in mid again, just making sure that Kira can't get any lane control.
Well, he's just trying to get Sia to get the perfect back timing. It was great for Albus NoX to try and challenge that, to try to get a pick off of it, but in the end of the day, Kira needs to get it back off too, and Lecrit just needs to help push this wave. Kira can't do this on his own.
You know, we've been so distracted with what's happening in the bottom half of the map that we haven't actually talked much about this difference in the top lane, because if you look at that, 122 to 98 in favor of the Trundle. We talked about how this matchup early on goes in favor of the Trundle, and if you can start an early snowball, it becomes so difficult for the Echo to close the gap. And when you've already got a Cowl and a Tiamat completed, you're just setting yourself up for a very powerful side lane presence in the form of that Trundle. And it is actually Jiral's most played top laner on par with his Aurelia. We've talked about how he likes to be this carry-style presence in the top half of the map, and now we might get an opportunity to see him really shine.
Just a small point I mentioned a little earlier was the fact that Lecrit and PvP Stejos were not there to really help out Kira in the initial push. Meant that Vladimir was able to not only get the shove, with the help of Audi, he came back straight to the map and was able to deny a few minions off of Kira. So that's a small detail, but it's so impactful, especially since they were right there. Kira didn't have any mana.
Look at Arso just completely zoning him off that one. Looks like the race for the top tower begins now. Lyon, they have a head start on this one, and looks like they should be getting themselves that first tower gold any minute now.
So this is the play that we were talking about earlier on, where you send your bottom lane to the top half of the map to either snowball an already winning lane, or to try and compensate for the fact that one of your side lanes is losing. And they realized the deficit that Echo is in, so they tried to swap to the top half to try and catch Dural out of position. Unfortunately, they weren't able to catch him out. He's able to get away, and now he's going to pick up this farm because they didn't properly set up the bounce. But LYN didn't need to set up the bounce because they were more invested in trying to get this early dragon. They get the first tower blood as well, and in all honesty, LYN are going to come out ahead of this exchange. Okay.
Yeah, and I really don't like the fact that they're responding to this by taking this Rift Herald. They're so far behind in tempo that RC, with this Tahm Kench, is sped up the tempo so well that they're able to actually contest this.
Oh, they are able to secure that one away. Dural might be in trouble now, forced to flash himself to safety. Say is there as well. Echo goes back and Gragas over the wall. Nice magical journey from Lacrit to get the immobile characters to safety.
So they actually forced the flash out from Dural. But look at the summoner spells burnt from Kira as well. It looks like that it wasn't a completely free trade. Fortunately for them, though, they do get themselves the Rift Herald. In terms of objectives traded, it is relatively even. But LYN setting themselves up slightly better moving forward. It's definitely going to help Smurf in the 1 versus 1. But when Dural is already this far ahead, you have to wonder how much of a difference that's actually going to make.
You can see LYN now got themselves a 3,000 gold lead at only 15 minutes in. They're doing great.
Thing is, though, if you're LYN, you move to the top side now. You want to try and take that turret next. Open up the map. Yeah. Enable yourself to set up, again, this 1-3-1 that you have. Because Mal's, yes, he can go into the side lane, but he's never going to be able to kill the Vladimir. We've already seen the amount of pressure this Vlad can put down, and going for an early Spirits Visage is going to make it so difficult for even the 2-man unit of Stasios and Kira to be able to kill him. So you also have the roaming power of Tahm Kench, put him in the mid lane with the Ezreal, poke out this Mal's, and just open up the map more. And finally, it looks like we're actually going to see it now from White Lotus.
Yeah, and it's very obnoxious from this Tahm Kench pick. If he is in the mid lane, it really does cut down a Miracle's ability to get an ult off on anyone. If it happens on a side lane, he just ulties and backs him up in the fight. If it happens in the mid lane, he's just there anyways, and he's just going to be able to gobble him up and walk away.
Dural just hanging around right now, making sure that Staya is safe.
Keeping that ward company.
Stayos is having a little bit of a sticky beak around the jungle. Kira, spell immune, gets him back to base.
Now, if you're LYN, what you want to do is try and put a deep ward in so you can look for a potential flank onto Smurf. He has read the play, so he's going to be able to get out of there, but it looks like the LYN have a slight tempo advantage. And this is the play that we wanted to see from LYN in the last 2 games. You are asking Rogi whether or not they could adapt, would they be able to learn? It looks like the LYN have gained a better understanding and are now playing around the map ever so slightly better. And this means that with the map opened up more, it enables them to make more roaming plays that can take advantage of the Tahm Kench. The problem that they have to be wary of is the fact that Albus NoX is still pushing in the bottom lane, and they have no answer for it yet.
And it says a lot for Albus NoX that they're able to get this out of LYN. They're able to pull this out of them, so they're going to continue on this push.
True Shot Barrage comes through to kind of thin the herd of minions here, and Saya, he might be in trouble. White Lotus is there as well, so is Oddie. They really want to get this mid lane turret, grouping as 4 in the mid. Smurf has made his way down, so for now, Albus NoX defend.
So now LYN need to figure out their next move, because the map is wide open, right? And they have not been in this position so far, because it's been much more of a brawly series in Games 1 and Game 2, and a lot more towers have still been up, so they could just go back to standard lanes, they can keep in the 2 versus 2 or the 1 versus 1, and wait for something to happen. But now they have to try and force a proactive play. There is no Rift Herald to fight over, there is no Dragon to fight over, so it's not really worth trying to force anything at the moment. You're better off just stalling out, trying to get the second item completed on the Ezreal, try and work towards that Ryle's Crystal Scepter on the Vladimir, or maybe even the Proto Belt would be a slightly better choice for the mid-game spike. And just wait until the next Dragon spawns and then set up your waves in a way that you can look to try and contest.
But right now, LYN's making it so hard for Albus NoX to output their main strength as they go in for it.
I don't know if they can really do anything off this. Ulti going to come down, and that's a lot expended just for Arce. He's going to fall, but there's 3 ultimates used.
That's exactly what Albus NoX needed to do from the beginning. They needed to free up Kira. They did it so well in Game 2 to free him up. That was their primary engage point this game, and he just kept getting shoved into tower, especially since the matchup was turned in his favor. But since Seiya did get help from Arce, he got help from Audi to get shoved into the lane and help him out in his back timings. Kira has always been behind in the curve. This time, he finally got ahead of it.
They find themselves a kill. It is only on to Arce. He did burn an exhaust, but no flash for his troubles. Still stacking up that tier as White Lotus has it upgraded now in the makings of that Iceborne Gauntlet.
This is going to be Albus NoX's strength now. Blue buff is coming up. Once Kira is able to attain that, he's going to be able to actually shove into this matchup and then go roam towards top or bot. Finally, Albus NoX will be able to push a play of their own.
Look, and you can hear the crowd right now. They are into this game. It is on a knife's edge right now. Only small advantages for Lyon, but that can easily flip either way. We've seen what Albus NoX can do when they get even the slightest bit of wind in their sails, even the smallest dose of confidence, and they can just fire on all cylinders.
Well, excuse me, sorry. To do that, they're going to need to take advantage of their teleport. So send the Toronto top lane, get him to soak up all that farm, get it pushing in their favor, go back to base, pick up an extra item, maybe get yourself the Giant's Belt, ready for this dragon fight that's about to set up. Note that Lyon, they've already gotten themselves a Scuttle Crab. They've already got a lot of vision around it. And this is what we were complaining about for so long, the fact that Lyon were not properly setting up for objectives. I'm very impressed with how they've quickly adapted. Now we have to judge them on their execution, their ability to be able to fight them. As Albus NoX, their team fighting has been fantastic throughout this series. Something that we cannot take away from them is how well they've actually been able to play these fights and utilize their composition. So it's certainly going to be an exciting fight as Lyon are the ones to start off this dragon.
It's going to be the Mountain Drake here. White Lotus just soloing out this one. Oddie finally making his way down to help, but PvP Stayos has wind of this. Dragon only on 3,000 health. Oddie trying to find some damage. Actually takes a lot in the return. Explosive Cast comes on in, but that's quite early. Magical Journey to reposition.
Yeah, Lyon have to walk away from this dragon. Audie's far too low. White Lotus is far too low. This is the fight they want.
Oh, Arce, a great consume on the Kench. Throws out White Lotus despite being in stasis. Here comes Jarrell. He's going to get locked up immediately. Can he get the subjugate off in time? Finds it onto Stayhos, who goes over the wall. Unfortunately, we're seeing nothing but a freeze frame here, and I think we're back in time.
On the Rift.
Looks like that was a 1-for-1 trade overall. Licrit ended up going down. White Lotus also ended up going down. And it is going to end up being the dragon going over in favor of Albus NoX. As we see Lyon forcing another fight.
Well, Stayhos, he's in onto Seiya, but now Miracle up the creek without a paddle, nowhere to go. Does he have the flash? He has it, misses the wall, gets taken down. And Lyon answer back and surely should be able to get themselves this dragon.
So an incredibly exciting fight. So much happened that we're going to have to break down once we get the replay because the action isn't over yet.
Well, Stayhos, he might be in trouble now. The pillar keeping him at base. Smurf looks like he wants to make his way over the wall, but dragon has been taken already. Stayhos looking for Arce, pops that grey health, and there's the ulti coming down. Jarrell, he just gets consumed by the Kench. Smurf should be able to pick up that one. Looking for another, though. White Lotus, he's quite low. Can he find the damage over the wall? Smurf, he's found his target. Can he get the kill? Ults back to safety. There's the explosive cast coming up from Gragas. Kills that one. Now Seiya trapped in the pit. Forced to flash. Doesn't have the ghost available. Smurf looking for the stuns over the wall. Stayhos, though. Like a web. Like a fly in the web. That's what I was going
like
for.
Like a moth to a flame.
Back and forth going forward. But that was a great position for Albus NoX, but they're going for this kill.
Nope. Lens isn't a look at visions there, I think. Anyway, Oddie, he does get the kill onto Smurf. The fight, it just never ends. Oddie, can he go down? The meme slap gets him in the end. And this fight feels like it's been going on for nearly 2 minutes.
Yes, and that's because I think it has been. Very extended fight. It started off at 2-1. Now we're at 6-5.
Jeez.
So it ends up being a 4-for-4 overall. Fortunately, I can do math. And if we just look across the kill score, or the kill board even, the Oddie picked himself up a number of kills. White Lotus ended up dropping. Arce also ended up dropping. The Vladimir was doing a fair amount of work in that fight. And I mean, when we just have to backtrack to the actual setup because it was LYN that had positioning on the Dragon initially. They started it off without having all of their members ready to respond, and we're going to see how this is actually the second part of the fight because it looks like what the enemy AD carry did go down. Miracle ended up dropping. LYN were pushing their advantage, and they just got a little bit too greedy. Arce, look, notice how they split up. And this is where Smurf can really take advantage because Jural has no mana. Lotus is only on half health. He gets nuked down by the combo of Smurf and Kira. And it's simply just a matter of LYN being divided and Albus NoX taking advantage of that with this incredibly mobile Echo. But then Oddie using his prey skills to pick up an extra kill on the backside.
Yeah, question was, how were they able to actually regain position? Because Albus NoX, that was great from them. They were able to chip down Audi in the initial point of it. They were able to gain position and an engage force. The TP came through, and they were able to. It must have just been an outplay in that scenario. So that was fantastic for LYN to regain positioning in that offset.
Vic may be onto Saya. Can't seem to find it. Audie's there, lands the cocoon onto Sayos, but it's got to be said that ANX, they aren't finding the same potential catches with this Ashe as LYN did early in game one, and it all comes down to Arce's Kench, always at the right place at the right time.
So far, LYN just figuring out what their next move is. It was a very back and forth fight around the Dragon area. And now they're looking to try and set up for this tier 1 in the mid lane. They have the Trundle in the side lane. He still has his teleport available. He could look to come in for a flank, but that results in Audi and co. looking to try and extend their vision. And speaking of Audi and co., they've all decided to wear matching bandanas, it seems.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a great point. They all have QSS, which is going to be a question how effective Kira is going to be in these team fights. He should still be able to output a lot of utility and damage with the Morellos, with the Rylai's Crystal Scepter, so he's not completely at a loss. But it's going to be difficult, especially since they don't even need to go towards QSS if they play towards the Tahm Kench.
I mean, remember that the Malzahar still does a decent amount of damage without his ultimate, because you still get the, even if they break out of the ult, you still get the his old W down, which does percentage health damage if you're standing inside it. But also, the cooldown on his Q and his E is actually surprisingly low, because just with the Morellonomicon and his runes and masteries, he should be sitting at about 30% CDR right now, which is reasonably high, given that you are this control mage that primarily just plays for utilities. I did hear the arrow come out.
Went on to Audi, who he's got a QSS, he just QSSs it, walks off, takes the tower for his troubles, and it is a lot of gold expended into magic resistance here, but keep in mind that Smurf and Kira are going to be dealing a lot of it, so it's not completely wasted.
So this is a strong point for LYN. Jural is still continuing the split push, especially since this inner turret is still up. He's still able to consistently shove it into tower, force Smurf to start to answer, and if that's the case, whenever he has that option, he can roam out and give LYN the ability to have that strong vision towards Baron.
So if Kira can keep this wave pushed up, they haven't seemed to found themselves a mid tower yet, and with Dragon up in a minute, that would open up the map nicely for them. Get themselves some deep ward, but Saya, he's done such a great job of holding this structure alive.
With Vladimir doing reasonably well for the time being, looks like that White Lotus is going to go for that play of the Ruin King third item. Could have looked to pick up a more against the triple AP that's coming out from Albus NoX, but has decided to go for more of the dueling / outplay potential that you have with Blade. It also gives you a little bit more sustain. But it's all it does make sense against Echo, who's just going to be sitting on your face. It just gives you a little bit more self-peel. And as we mentioned earlier on, it helps with the sustain. I wouldn't be surprised to see a more come later on in the build, but he's likely going to prioritize the either the Mortal Reminder or the Lord Dominic's Regard. Probably the Mortal Reminder as a fourth item. We'll have to see where he transitions from that, but it'll really help with his ability to just basically hold his own in these fights, and that means that Arce can prioritize saving that consume for one of the frontline targets that's going to be taking the brunt of Malzahar's damage.
Yeah, that just might just come down to White Lotus's mentality, where he is that solo carry, or the solo carry mindset. He wants to try and constantly outplay, because he does have a considerable amount of damage than the rest of his team with Vladimir, with Elise and Jural on Trundle. He doesn't have to continue to go towards that damage. He can build defensively.
Steos gets the crab. Can't remove that vision. That should allow for ANX to maybe get some cheeky attacks in. White Lotus has been doing a great job of corralling them with the Q.
Oh, Nocturne gank.
Kira just going to be controlling up that mid wave, and Dragon started once again.
Always wondered where that champion went in the meta. Seems like he's just part of the actual rift right now. He's one with the rift.
He's in the crowd. And he's waiting, just like Albus NoX as the Dragon is going very low.
Yeah, it's down to about 2,000 health. Let's see who can steal it away. Stejos, he can't get it. Oddie gets it with the execute. Now Stejos might be in trouble, but in the back, Smurf forced to ult himself out of that one. Now Dural frontlining and doing an impeccable job of that. A nice double-man Tempered Fate. This should allow Smurf to get in onto White Lotus. Can he find the execute? No! He's still alive somehow. White Lotus gets the kill. Dural finishes him off. Now Kira executed on the back of that one. Magical Journey should get them to safety, and everyone on the side of ANX is just dropping like flies. Lyon surely going to be giving chase.
It looks like the Lyon get themselves a win in that team fight, being able to get the kill down onto Smurf. White Lotus doing a fantastic job of being able to stay alive. There was blood in the eyes of Smurf. He wanted to shut down that AD carry, but with the outplay potential, White Lotus gets himself a kill, and now they're moving onto this tier 1 in the mid.
That was a good attempt from Smurf and the crit in that team fight to work with each other, but they're just trying to get this tower now.
And they just can't find anything on the side of ANX. Every time it looks like they've caught someone out, they got to remember that there's 5 Quicksilver Sashes available on the side of Lyon. So any attempt to overcommit to a CC target could backfire immediately.
Oh, it certainly can, but I hope we get a replay of that fight, because White Lotus, in all honesty, just played that so well. He held on to his flash for the longest amount of time. This is a good flank from Smurf. He used a TP onto the pink wall down the lane. Dural is just soaking up 4 members with a great pillar. And then at this point, Smurf thinks he can go in for the play. Now watch this. You see the Time Wider come out. White Lotus flashes. Look, they've even paused it for me. This is great. He flashes just at the moment that the Q is about to come back in, which means that there isn't enough damage to get the kill onto White Lotus. Just really smart play, holding onto that flash for the last possible second, and it baited Smurf in to stay a little bit longer than he initially would have. So overall, really good response from White Lotus to get himself that kill.
That was an awesome play from Albus NoX to try and work between the ulti from Bard ulti on top of the fact that Smurf thought he had the kill, and ordinarily you would if he didn't play it as perfectly as he did.
Gold advantage around the board in favor of Lyon Gaming right now on every single character, but you've got to remember a good portion of that actually is chunked in to that Quicksilver Sash, but it has already been paying dividends time and time again. Kira, he just can't find a target and has to rely on Malefic Vision's damage alone. And look, back to White Lotus dodging that Time Winder. I just wanted to say, what's dodging a Time Winder after we saw his play in Baron Pit? This is not surprising to me anymore. I just expected of him at this stage.
Well, if ladies and gentlemen have only just joined us, White Lotus has had some up and down performances this series. So far, he's 1, 2, and 3. But to be fair, he's had a lot of focus put on him by Smurf. And against an Echo, it can be a little bit challenging, but he's now completed his Blade of the Ruined King. His Mura mana is now fully stacked, ready to go. Going to be doing a lot more damage. This is a big spike now for the Ezreal. And given that Ashe has not hit her 3rd item yet, decided to go for the Hex Drinker, going up against the Vlad and the Elise, as well as the Ezreal. It actually makes a lot of sense, but it's going to delay your spike a little bit more.
Look, and we were wondering how Miracle would do on this Ashe as opposed to Jhin, when Jhin is such a primary form of their Initiate, and it's night and day performances right now. We haven't seen the Ashe ulti come in successful once, whereas the Jhin ulti time and time again was able to set them up.
He's had some good arrows, to be fair to him. He has been landing, setting up for a couple of good plays throughout the map, but as you already said,
to the Jhin, though?
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be having the same sort of impact as he was having on the Jhin. It's definitely something that he's not necessarily playing badly at, but he doesn't quite have the same effect on the game that he's had in the previous 2.
It's going to be difficult. Comp-wise, picking this outright pick comp based off your ultis, with Kira ulti, and with Licrit's ult and Miracle. The QSS is going to be so valuable. With that many coming out, that's 5 QSS across the team. They essentially have this composition countered. And as long as they play this out slowly and continue to play towards the dragons, they already have 3 dragons. Next one's coming up in 2 minutes. Right now, Albus NoX are in a tough spot.
The thing that bothers me for LYN is that they've got 4 members mid. Send the Vladimir to a side lane. He can sit there. There is no way that Maltahar can kill him if he follows him. Your Ezreal has so much more poke than the Ashe. Keep this Bard over to the mid half of the map as well, and you have the roaming power of the Tahm Kench to follow up on any side lanes that get in a bit of trouble. You have so many options if you're Lyon Gaming that they're not fully utilizing. They're relying on this 1-4, and I feel like it's not the most efficient use of their comp.
It definitely isn't, and it feels like one thing that's for certain is that they don't exactly know how to take a mid tower without going for a siege or a skirmish. They've been very reliant on these skirmishes or the siege, even regardless of whether or not it's a siege comp, to get it going. 1-3-1 would have been perfect here, and they would have looked to dive with Elise, with Trundle, but they haven't gotten that priority. They haven't used their lane priorities to actually go in for the dive. So this time it might be different. Giral is putting down that Trundle pillar.
In the back, tower getting lower and lower. There's the Tempered Fate, only catches onto Arce. The tower somehow still standing. Arce in the thick of it now, thanks to the barrel. Saya gets locked up by the ulti. A very late QSS. It's only as good as your reactions. And now Giral in the thick of it. So is Smurf Oddie doing a great job of keeping him at bay. The slow constantly being reapplied by the Malefic Vision's line in full retreat. They do have a tower of their own to keep them safe. But ANX, once again, when their backs are against the wall, they can come out fast.
Albus NoX read the play from LYN. They knew that that was the push that was going to be the hard commit, and they forced it before LYN had a chance to react. They catch Arce out of position. He gets caught up in the Tempered Fate. He gets knocked underneath the turret, and LYN were not expecting it. They thought that they could just get that tower for free, and Albus NoX just caught them completely unawares.
And the Bard pick really does look to kill it. Once Bard is level 6, level 12 now, the ulti available can constantly look to go for those counter engages. It's going to be difficult to get the siege going, so they do need to split themselves up.
I think the reason as well is just like you said, LYN, they're just sitting 4 mid. They're not really pressuring anywhere else on the map, so that gave ANX so much time to just think, okay, this is how we're going to play this. And set up for it.
Well, worst case scenario is the fact that the Albus NoX got Dragon here too. Because if you're going to output that much pressure, at least consider the vision control in the area. But they, of course, overcommitted. They lost the control of their Dragon, and then they lost the Dragon itself. So they really didn't get anything off of that as well.
Thing is, I'm not sure if I'd call it an overcommit. It was I really want to highlight the fact that Albus read the play. Yeah. Because there was a minion wave coming up. They knew Trundle was sitting on the flank, and Smurf knew that this push for this tower, this they were going to commit to the tower. That was what LYN had in mind. They were like, the moment this minion hits the tower, we're going to go for it. The Bard ult was mainly to delay. They catch Arce out, and they think, you know what, we can just kill Arce here. We've got Smurf coming in. And they just go for the pick. And it was very much a proactive play from Albus NoX, trying to take advantage of what would have been a very bad situation, rather than LYN suddenly making a mistake that was capitalized on. It was just one of those very telegraph moves that you're able to respond to accordingly.
So when do you think we'll be seeing Saya actually leaving out of this mid lane and start?
He's not. He's glued to mid lane. I don't think I've actually seen him leave mid once. That top, there was a massive wave. He didn't actually get any of it. It all went to the tower. And just, for some reason, Saya is determined to just stay mid, and I just don't understand why.
They're just holding on to the fact that Giral did pick up the Ravenous Hydra, does have Ravenous, Randuin's Omen, and the Spear Visage, should be able to shove this lane on through. So once he does get priority, once he's able to completely push Smurf into that tower, that they can actually commit to this mid tower, there's only a little bit of it left, so that one final push should be the last killing blow.
Well, so surely there's a reason that Saya is constantly staying in this mid lane when in a great position to 1-3-1. Is it fear of the Ashe ult initiate?
I just think it's a lack of awareness. They're worried about the fact that he doesn't have teleport and he can't join, but that doesn't matter. Often we've seen mid laners use ghosts to roam. Something that Perks will often do is if he wants to go for a roaming gank bot and he feels like confident that he'll be able to get it, about halfway through his roam he'll just pop the ghost and that'll just increase his movement speed significantly enough to get to the fight before anything serious happens. And when you have a comp with Ezreal, Tahm Kench and Elise, you have no reliable way to start a fight. So just put your Vladimir in a side lane, allow him to draw pressure, use this poke disengage that you have to just split up the lineup of Albus to enable you to start moving into the base of your opponent.
And you shouldn't even be afraid of your team getting caught too. You have so many abilities to just disengage from the enemy team. The only real thing you should be afraid of is PvP Stagos, and even that seems...
maybe the Bard ult.
Maybe. That's true.
Once again, 4 men strong for Lyon. This may be the final time they do it. The tower is so low, it's blinking red. It's about a minion auto away. It's a shame that the Ezreal Qs can't hit.
They really need to start committing Trundle to these plays.
You can hear the crowd. The tension is absolutely palpable right now. Hey!
There you go.
I didn't even need to cheer the crowd.
It only took them 15 minutes.
That was really unclean, and it just came from the fact that if they're going to continue to do that, Giral, he has the shove. He needs to start moving towards this lane. There's a lot of options they had. They choose neither.
The thing is, if you're Lyon, you don't have to do anything. You just 1-3-1 is the strategy that you use. So all your comp is built around. Like, your team fighting is reasonable, but when you have an Ezreal, he is not that proficient at team fighting. The Elise also not that great at team fighting. Trundle, like, he's decent, but again, like, it's like this comp that's reasonable at team fighting, but it's not built to team fight. It's built to split you up and win in skirmishes. Yep. Like, a Vlad and an Elise versus a Gragas and a Mal's, that's easily going to go to the Vlad and the Elise. A Trundle and a Tahm Kench versus an Echo and a Bard, I'd give that to the Trundle and the Tahm Kench. And it's the fact that they have these really powerful 2 versus 2 and 3 versus 3 matchups that they are not taking advantage of. They are just grouping mid and they are A-ramming this game, and they have a terrible A-ram comp. Like, this is the worst draw you could have gotten. Like, sure, Ezreal can put poke down, but there's so much wave clear on the Mal's that Lyon are just... And they're back! Stop! Stop!
A strength of this, now it's justifiable. I'm going to be honest, now it's good.
Is it Raz?
Now it's fine. The AD carry is, Ashe is keeping it top. The Dragon is going to be coming up in 1 minute and 30 seconds. So the fact that they're now able to take that tower, shove up the lanes, and actually use it for pressure coming down on these objectives is the main goal here.
But what objective are they putting pressure onto right now? Like,
the wrong one. I'm going to give that to you. It is not the correct one, but Dragon will come up soon, and I have to expect for them to start rotating.
This is why I feel like, from what we've seen of this series so far, Albus NoX have a better understanding of how to play League of Legends. Because in the game where they had a lead, they were relentless. They won it in 34 minutes. Game 1, Lyon had the advantage, Lyon had control over the map, and it was just, all Albus could do was stall. But that's all they needed to do, because they just needed to wait for Lyon to throw. Because Lyon do not know what to do if the game is relatively even. They have a 5,000 gold lead, and they haven't taken advantage of it once in the last 15 minutes of the game.
They have a lot. They've now, since it's 40 minutes into the game, they're...
Ooh, that's a lot of damage on top of that.
That is a lot of damage.
True Shot Barrage nicks in, but...
That could be enough. They've given themselves enough of an opportunity that they have the pressure on Baron that they can actually just go for it.
This is so risky.
It is.
You have the Echo TP, you have the Ashe Arrow still available, there's vision on it for the side of Albus NoX. If Lyon just use it to try and bait Albus into a fight, then it could go in their favor.
Tempered Fate hits onto Oddie. You can see what these guys can do, but a very early explosive cast. Unfortunately, Oddie, he was still golden.
But again, Lyon, they have no way to actually start off the fight unless they just walk in.
Oh, Saya hits a massive Hemo Plague onto 2 members. Kira can't seem to find the target. An instant QSS teleport coming in for Smurf. Can he find the correct targets? But now Lyon in full retreat. Where is Trundle? He's walking up through the river. They may re-engage once he gets here.
Yeah, he's very undecided how he wants to play it out. He's just going to take the long way around to match up his team under this tower.
Oh, this could be the fight. A nice body slam coming on in Smurf. He does get a stun onto Oddie. Ults himself back to safety. Giral has the Guardian Angel. Uses a Subjugate. Steos trying to keep them at bay with the body slam. He is quite tanky. Has his GA of his own. Everyone just trading cooldowns right now. Can't seem to find anything.
But you're seeing how Lyon's comp is not built to team fight. They have no hard engage. They have no reliable way to flank. And now they're just taking so much damage under this turret.
Yeah, Arce forced to use a consume onto Giral. His ulti about half off cooldown now. Tempered Fate's back available. There it is. Can't seem to find anyone. Trying to catch it out onto White Lotus. Here comes Giral silenced up. No pillar available just yet. And now ANX forced to back off.
This is actually major. The fact that they were able to get the earlier double Ocean Dragon means that they don't even have to back to base to get the HP back and up again.
White Lotus just landing Q after Q. The poke is real right now. Smurf. Very risky recall. Steos might be in trouble as well.
LYN should use this as an opportunity to get deep vision in the top half of the jungle.
Or
Going for a Baron is incredibly risky once again. Smurf does not have his ultimate available to him, but just look at the positioning of Miracle. But we're not going to get a chance to because the fight apparently kicked off.
Well, that's 2 kills going over for LYN right away. They take out Kira, they take out Miracle, and probably going to turn their attention back on the Baron. So the rinse and repeat strategy eventually working out for LYN, even if it was suboptimal.
The power of magic.
You know what? I didn't have much interest in that either. I was going to zoom straight to the play, straight to the fact that Miracle and Kira are just dead, gone off the map, and Baron is the focus for this team. It looks like whatever LYN did, it worked.
Well, LYN, you had no engage. Your pick potential is incredibly weak, yet somehow you managed to kill both the carries on Albus NoX. So
persistence is key.
I'll tell you what, it's something that you haven't seen. They may have 5 players, but they've also purchased a magician. they found themselves.
But none of them have the death cap yet.
So he may have been caught out here, forced to use the pull quite early. Just QSS as any of the slows now, turning it back around onto Steos. He is fearless.
An aggressive fearless.
Yeah, dude. He's an aggressive player. Did you see that?
Yeah,
Following the journey.
Is. Well, now it looks like the LYN are going to make an aggressive move, heading over to this Elder Drake.
Steos does have the smite available and the ulti. Could potentially go for the steal. Arce just keeping him at bay. Should go for the consume. Weasel below. Is he going to spin him over the wall? No, spins him into the thick of the fight. Has the Guardian Angel available. Saya, no QSS available now. Bet you wish you had that one, mate. But Jarol is able to get the kill on the back of that one. Miracle trying to dish out the damage in the thick of it. It's Smurf uses the ulti back onto Oddie. White Lotus, he's still alive, still outputting damage. And Arce now
Lotus
in the wrong side of the fight. Is he going to get the kill?
He's still alive!
He's still going. He's still licking him. He's dead. And now it's looking bad for ANX with the only player left alive. It's Liquid. A triple kill for White Lotus.
He's going to try and make it a quadra.
Huge stuff coming out from Lyon Gaming. Somehow, through nothing but sheer determination, by pure force of will, they A-ram at mid and make it happen. They're looking for that inhibitor tower.
They might end the game.
An inhibitor and maybe even the Nexus.
They have Jarol, he can just soak up these towers, they have a minion wave, and then with White Lotus just getting himself a quadra kill, they should be able to take game 3.
An absolutely impressive display of magic coming out today. Lyon Gaming, despite our constant, hey, stop going mid. All right, stop going mid. Okay, Vlad's got 3 items, go top, no, he's mid again. They somehow make it work for them, pull out the win.
Well, it just came down to the objectives themselves. Finally, from the pressure that they accrued in the mid lane, they were able to take down the tower, put the pressure towards the Baron, put the pressure towards the Dragon. Suddenly, you don't need to walk towards the towers anymore. And once that happened, the fights went in their way, and they were able to outplay it very well. So White Lotus, I mean, his team fighting was actually excellent. The Bard ulti came down at the very end to try and nullify him. He eased out of it, his positioning throughout. The Trundle Pillar sectioning them off at the very end allowed his team to just chase on for the rest of the kills.
Well, fortunately, we're going to get to see behind the scenes of some of these magic acts as we get a replay of these fights. Now, remember, it was a very slow early game. This Dragon fight is where a lot of action kicked off. Very scrappy, very messy from both teams. No real target focus because of how disjointed the location is where they're fighting. That both teams got very quickly divided up, which made it so messy. And then at this point, you think that it's an even trade, but then they try to go and it's just constantly back and forth to the Dragon. And now we see this actual fight in the mid lane. So this is how things actually snowballed in the favor of Lyon. They postured around the right. So they postured around the Baron. Then as Lyon moved back towards the mid to contest Albus NoX, who had mid priority. Note that Kira and Miracle had already used their flashes earlier on, which meant that the Trundle Pillar made it so much easier for then Slayer to get into the backline and get themselves the kills. So they just punished the fact that Albus NoX had no real way of disengaging that fight, and Lyon, through relentless, as you said, sheer determination and will, were finally able to force that mid lane fight that they so desperately wanted.
And so White Lotus played this out really well, eat out of it entirely. The Trundle Pillar slowed them down. And you're just so... This is the beauty of Ezreal with Iceborne Gauntlet. It feels like the AD carry version of Kassadin. You just cannot run from him. Gets the quadra kill in the end. Really excellently played team fight.
I like that. Well put, the AD version of Kassadin. Every Q just lowering the cooldown of the Arcane Shift here. And an excellent performance out of White Lotus once again, netting himself that quadra kill in the end to secure the victory.
Now, the most surprising thing to me is the fact that LYN, during the regular group stages, whenever they got a lead, they snowballed, like, incredibly quickly. They had, like, a 27-minute game against Dark Passage. They had, like, a 29-minute game against INTZ. They knew how to close out a game once they had a lead. And now, here in the semifinal, they just can't seem to find how to close out these games with their advantages that they've accrued. And it blows my mind, because they had a very obvious win condition. They knew exactly what they needed to do, yet they did not take advantage of it. They just sat mid, they kept pushing, they bought a lot of time, and eventually they won because they played around the Baron well enough, waiting for Albus to make the mistake that netted them the win.
Look, and we're going to see if they can kind of overcome some of those mistakes when we come back for game number 4.